This is the Euclidean Sequencer on the Digitone II. It's an idea generator, a shortcut to arranging complex drum patterns, and it's also a live performance tool. This one little page can do a lot. So today I'm going to show you how it works, how to use it in live performance, and why I think it's so useful for creating songs, which I'm going to demonstrate by creating this song that you're hearing right now. To turn the Euclidean Sequencer on, hold down Function and then hit the Amp Page button. Now in the top right corner, you see the on-off switch. Just twist your knob to the right. And now we can lay down pulses from our pulse generators. Now a regular sequencer is just like a straight line. It runs left to right, always marching forward in a very linear fashion. That's kind of how we're just used to thinking about music. It's how we read notes on a page. With Euclidean sequencing, it's more like we're taking that flat line and we're turning it into a circle. Because the way it works is you choose the number of notes you want on your sequence, and the Euclidean math will then determine the most equal way to distribute those notes across your cycle of time. It's like if you have a cake and you want to make sure everyone in the room gets an equal slice. Well, the way that you divide up that cake, the size of each piece would depend on how many people are in that room. What makes the Euclidean sequencing interesting is when you start to throw numbers at it that don't cleanly fit into the 16 steps. So like if I put it up to like 5. And we could even do some more complicated numbers. We could do 11. I like to think of it as a very quick way to fill up your sequencer with a musically coherent selection of notes. But it's actually much more than that because we have 2 pulse generators. So here we have 4 beats on pulse 1. If we add in pulse 2, we can pick a weird number. Let's pick 5. It's now overlaying the 5 division across the 4 division. And if we want, we can change the relationship between these 2 different pattern overlays by rotating them. So underneath each pulse generation, we have a rotation parameter. So like I'm going to rotate pulse 2. You can see that 5 division is now occupying different places. And so now the feel of the groove is a little bit different. Now let's change 4 to like something like, let's do 3. Now notice whenever the pulses overlap, the sequencer just treats that as one note. That's because we are set in the default of our Boolean Logic, which is the OR operator setting. Boolean Logic, it seems like this weird, complicated, mathy computer thing. It's really not that complicated. I'm going to break it down for you. So the default, the sequencer will treat any overlapping pulses as one note. But it can also do the opposite. So if we flip it once to the right, we get XOR. So now any pulses that overlap are being withheld. Now it's leaving more space. That's really what the Boolean logic can do for you. It's just a way to insert space into these kind of mechanical, tangled patterns. And of course, when we rotate, now that's going to change the dynamic. So XOR is the second setting. The third setting is the AND operator. Now, if you notice all the notes disappeared, that's because none of the pulses are overlapping. Because on this setting, the only notes you hear are when pulses are overlapping. So if we play around with our rotation, something's going to pop out. There we go, 1 and 7. It's always going to be dependent on whatever the lowest number of pulses there are. That's going to be the amount of notes that are possible. So pulse 1 only having 3 notes kind of screws us over. So let's give it more numbers. Let's get 9. Pulse 2, let's give it, let's go wild. Let's say 12. And let's go ahead and rotate pulse 1. Let's keep going. Now, as you can hear, this pattern feels a little different, right? It feels like the 1 is hitting right here. See, that's what's cool about Euclidean sequencing is once you start tangling up these different sounds, you get new patterns that emerge, and they are not dependent upon where the one is. You're much more fluid than that. And because music is technically just cycles of tension and resolution, you could argue that this is a more natural way to think about music. So I like this pattern, and I want to have this be the beginning of the pattern. So instead of trying to rotate pulse generator 1 and 2 separately, I can move them both together in sync by using track rotation, which is this one right here. And I need to move it over 3 beats. So we're going to do +3. I want to just print this to the regular sequencer. The way we do that is we go ahead and just turn the Euclidean sequencer off, but we do it while holding down function. Check it out. They've all turned red. Now this is a normal sequence. I want to go ahead and move that note, that one, because I want to add some snares. Let's go ahead and add some hi-hats, jump over to track 3, turn this on. Let's make our length longer. Let's make it 32. All right, let's start spreading some pulses. Now, I haven't mentioned it yet, but there is a 4th Boolean Logic operator on here. If we go all the way to the end, it's called the sub operator. The way this works is all notes from pulse generator 1 are going to come through, except where they overlap with pulse generator number 2. Basically, this can be your one-stop shop for laying down notes, and this is the way that you mess with those notes. It's the way that you subtract and pull out from them. So if I rotate this around, I'm going to be pulling out different notes from it. Let's pick a weird number. Let's pick 9. I like that. Go ahead and save it. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, that's cool, but I would rather just punch in the notes where I want them to go, and that's totally fair. This is more about the process than it is about the result, if that makes sense. The process influences the result, but if you already know what you like and you know how to get there, then by all means, do that. What people fail to understand about the Euclidean sequencer, it combines with the normal sequencer to make something better than both on their own. And you can even use a 3rd sequencer, but we'll get there when we get there. So check it out. Track 7, I have a melody laid down already on a bass patch. Now, if I turn on the Euclidean sequencer, it's going to let me distribute this bass line across our pattern using the Euclidean math. Let's go ahead and add a 2nd pulse in there, and let's switch to XOR. Okay, I like that, but it feels a little bit stilted. Let's track rotate the whole thing. All right, let me show you my favorite thing to do. Hold down function plus amp page and then hit yes. It's going to randomize our values. Let's go ahead and do it again. The notes are the same, but it's just in different spots. I love that. Now, for a pattern like this with a lot of empty space, we can do something really cool, which is turn on our 3rd sequencer, which is our ARP. And now it kind of nicely fills in that space. But let's actually go into our ARP, and you see here is our offset. We can remove notes from the pattern. So just by removing that 2nd note, we're adding like a different dimension to it. Now it's very groovy. What really sets this sequencer apart from the other sequencer is that this is alive, it's fluid, it doesn't have to stay in one spot. And what's cool about this is all these different tracks are all having Euclidean sequencing happening at the same time, right? So therefore we could use Control Alt to adjust them and shift them and mess with them. So check it out. I'm gonna hold down track, play around with some rotation, add some pulses, and I can always return to that original pattern. Let's do it again. See, it gets kind of tangled up and then you kind of untangle it real quick. And we can always jump back to the original version just by, when we're holding down track, hitting no before we release our finger. That was a good one. All right, let me try something different now. Let's go to track 7. I want to go ahead and print this to the regular sequencer, right? Turning off, holding down function. Now this will be the only track that's not changed around. That bass line will stay all the way through. We still haven't gotten to what I think is the most exciting and musically useful feature of this sequencer, and that is that we don't have to just trigger drums or melodies. We can trigger effects upon other tracks. So I'm talking about multiple sequences affecting the same sound, and we can mess with any parameter we want, which can get very interesting when you throw polyrhythms into the mix, or the fact that we can modulate the Euclidean sequencer itself. So all of that is coming up on part 2. I'm very excited about this series. Slumpfish here, saying goodbye. Thanks for hanging out.